What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Speculation has been running wild recently after a patent and several trademarks were spotted online from Nintendo, even getting to the point now where people are wondering, wait a minute, are Game Boy Advance games heading to the Switch? We'll go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a big game release that caught a lot of people by surprise, and we're going to be taking a look at a couple of arcade cabinet leaks, one of which has me very interested. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Xbox and Starfield. Now, this game is slated for November and is clearly Microsoft's big holiday title that they're going to work to build up with hype and everything. And they've sort of been attempting this through like these developer sit-down videos. This would be their second one, and it's part of like this series that they're doing. This video was a little over 5 minutes long. You can see some of it here. It's called They're Made for Wanderers. It's part of the Into the Starfield series. This is their second episode. And yeah, essentially part of the team sat around the table and just talked about the game. Like, we've seen very, very small flashes of Starfield. The longest thing we've seen is that in-engine trailer with the sandwich that looked pretty good, and that sort of was it. In this video, they talked about the game being less linear. There's gonna be this Crimson Fleet, which is like their raider faction that you can join, but you can still be a good guy and report back to the space police. And they mentioned that persuading NPCs would take a bit more work than previous entries that they've done. And they showed a very small snippet of in-engine footage of a robot looking around. So I guess that, like, 2 or 3 seconds looked good, but that's sort of it. And of course, this I think would have been a lot better with some sort of gameplay. The thing with Bethesda, and they've done this with a couple of their titles, Fallout being the most recent example, they didn't show gameplay of it until like 4 months before the game released, and that sort of appears what they're going to do here. The game's out in November. Most likely they're going to have a big blowout at E3, showing off like probably 30 minutes of gameplay outright, just going over everything about Starfield and then starting that big marketing hype train leading up to release. So here's hoping all of the hype and buildup that's happened so far, because it's been a while since Starfield was announced, ends up being worth it. Also, we did have that ID at Xbox showcase yesterday with a bunch of indie titles and some standouts, one of which I did not expect at all. How about a wrestling RPG? You can see some of the trailer here. This is called Wrestle Quest. It's coming out over the summer, so no firm release date yet, but it's coming to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. They even have licensed wrestlers in the game like Macho Man Randy Savage, Booker T, Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake Roberts, Diamond Dallas Page, Jeff Jarrett, and many more. Maybe they'll keep some of them a secret up until launch. You kind of run into them on your own. That'd be kind of cool. But like some of the gameplay they showed here was just off the wall. Like you do still, it looks like pin your opponents and everything, but yeah, it plays like a turn-based RPGs with some action elements and different button presses that you do, I guess, during your moves. But what a cool idea. And that's the biggest reason I enjoy these indie showcases, because you legitimately will tune in not knowing what you're about to see. And I mean, who would have gone to this thinking, well, can't wait to see that next big wrestling RPG, but here we are. So I'll be keeping tabs on this one and let you guys know when the release date is over the summer. Hopefully that means a couple of months from now, we'll be able to check this one out. Oh, and for all of you Sniper Elite fans, we did get the release date for Sniper Elite 5. We can see this posted up over on Twitter from the Sniper Elite count, saying coming to Game Pass, Xbox One, Series X, S, PC, PlayStation 4, and 5 on May 26, 2022. So a little over 2 months from now, you'll be able to pick this one up, and it's coming to Game Pass day one. Now, I will admit, I have completely fallen off of the Sniper Elite series. I really liked it back in the day on the original Xbox and PC. The second one was fun, and the third one, and then I think after that I kind of tuned out a bit. So let me know if you're still really into the series and if it's worth jumping back into for Sniper Elite 5. I mean, it's coming to Game Pass, so it is that situation of, well, I can just go and download it and try it out. But there we have it, a little over 2 months for Sniper Elite fans to pick up the latest one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with all the speculation that's been going on here with Nintendo over the last couple of days. There were trademarks that were spotted as well as a patent. We'll start with the trademarks actually first thing. We can see this. It was spotted over on Reddit, where it was posted up with all these trademarks that were filed for March 7th. We can see the Minish Cap, Metroid Zero Mission, I think it's supposed to be Mach Rider, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Now, this, of course, has a couple of Game Boy Advance games in there, an NES game, and then Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, which is already on Nintendo Switch Online, by the way. So, to me, looking at this, It's business as usual for renewing trademarks. I mean, we talked about the Konami one with Silent Hill, and a lot of that's because of MVG and Nate going back and forth on that, so why not, try to push that feud forward. But Minish Cap, Metroid, Zero Mission, sure, it'd be great to see Game Boy Advance games head to the service. But unfortunately, looking at this, I don't really see much that's here other than them just renewing their trademarks for things like marketing or merchandise. Now, could Nintendo eventually add Game Boy Advance games to the Nintendo Switch Online service? Sure. I do wonder, though, if that would be a situation where Nintendo would feel like they would have to raise the price again. I think Game Boy is within the realm of possibility to just throw it on there for like the $50 expansion pack tier. Game Boy Advance, though, might be like that N64 situation for them, where they see that as more valuable than what's technically there now. So would this then go to a $70 a year service with Game Boy Advance? Maybe something else they throw in there. It's always Virtual Boy. Probably. That's sort of the way I'm looking at it, but that's kind of how I look at Nintendo most times, as them trying to push things up a bit more with price if they can. And I do wonder if people would really be on board to pay more for Game Boy Advance games. I guess it would be dependent on the library of games that they would show up immediately with. Like if it's 20 Game Boy Advance games and they're high quality ones like Minish Cap or Zero Mission or any of those, yeah, you probably would have people on board for an extra $10 or even $20 a year. But if it's like some like an offering of like 8 or 9 titles and they're not even very good, it might be a bit harder to get people up front, and maybe you have to turn to things like they're doing now with some of the DLC that just kind of gets packaged in with the expansion pack tier. But who knows, maybe they just show up with Pokemon and it has like online play and everything, and then people just throw money at the screen. Anyway, we also had a patent that popped up that looked very, very strange for a minute there. Take a look at this. This is a controller patent that was spotted from Nintendo. And yeah, that is a very odd looking controller, isn't it? It looks like it's a Nintendo 64 controller that's just missing the bottom part of it and everything else in the middle with like a start button and all of this, right? Well, looking through this patent, to me, it appears that it is indeed just that. It's like the top part of the Nintendo 64 controller that they released for the Switch with that Nintendo Switch Online accessory. And this is most of the stuff that they had to redesign to make it function. Things like the battery or the rumble motor, all of that being included inside of it, had to be patented and changed around. And if you look through this, they also detail that it is very much subject to change. And they mean like all of it, which does include attaching another part to the controller. So I saw this, people were passing around and wondering exactly what the deal was here. I think someone just ran across it randomly and just said, wait a minute, is this just like a controller Nintendo's working on? No, not really. This is just kind of their process of working out that Nintendo 64 online controller they released. So unfortunately, I feel like I just brought a bunch of disappointment to all the speculation that was going on with Game Boy Advance and this weird controller, but who knows? Nintendo is a strange company. Maybe they are redesigning a controller and maybe they have a plan for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. I just don't see a lot here with the trademarks and the patents, but I guess we'll see. Nintendo has done some weird stuff in the past. Next up, let's talk about a big game release yesterday that seemed to surprise a lot of people, and that's Tunic. Now, we've been talking about this game for a long time. It was made by like one person, and the development process was quite lengthy. They did demos for it, and people were a little surprised at the difficulty for that demo, by the way. Well, it looks like it worked out pretty well, everything they've been able to do here, because we can see the Metacritic score coming in at an 87. That's currently on 39 critic reviews. We can see the split, 39 positive, 0 mixed, 0 negative. Now, some of the bright spots here include the Zelda-esque dungeons, and some like the difficulty, others didn't. Obviously, the art style is really, really cool. It has that isometric top-down look to it. It's very detailed. The art style is great. But the difficulty just didn't sit well with everyone. Some seem to be pretty frustrated with it, and the fact that there is no difficulty slider or setting, it sort of worked into, I guess, that kind of that Souls-like experience at times for people. And there was one other surprise yesterday for Tunic, and that is it's indeed heading into Game Pass day one. It's there right now. You can go download it and try the game out. It was speculated on quite a bit, and that's probably because it was an Xbox and PC title, and that tends to happen with a lot of these. Death's Door, for example, people thought that it might go into Game Pass immediately, and it took a little bit of time for that to happen. Tunic is a game that I've been looking forward to for quite a while, and I'm going to be downloading this one immediately. It's just, I'm to the point now where there are just so many games, like Stranger of Paradise came out and I'm trying to play through that right now. I'm still messing around with WWE 2K and Gran Turismo 7 and doing some of the endgame bosses in Elden Ring. So I'm just like game to game to game right now. Then we get into next week and it's Ghostwire Tokyo and Kirby, and it's game overload right now. But I'm gonna make room for Tunic because I've been looking forward to it for a while. Next up, let's talk about Elden Ring actually, as we got some updated sales figures that absolutely shocked the internet. I did mention at one point that I felt we were gonna hear some sort of number at a Bandai that was going to be legitimately shocking to most people, and that's because it was going to eclipse the 10 million mark pretty fast. Looks like it did that already. We can see this press release. This from Bandai saying brand new action RPG Elden Ring, 1 million units sold in Japan, 12 million units sold worldwide. Yes, you are seeing that correctly. In just weeks' time, Elden Ring has crossed 12 million units. In fact, Bandai even mentions they're looking to expand the Elden Ring IP outside of just games, so maybe we'll see an entire series. Who knows where they're gonna go with this? I mean, this is an absolute success for them, considering they were looking for like 4 million sold in the first couple of months or something. Obviously went well above expectations. I think that bonus or raise that Bandai did of like $400 or $500 a month for every developer on average at their studio, now it makes a lot more sense because they probably sold millions of copies just in the first day. Now, one thing I have seen mentioned online quite a bit is that a lot of newer players came in, picked up the game, tried it, and just didn't like it and moved on after like an hour. Well, at least on PC, that's not the case, because we can see this over on Eurogamer, where they say Elden Ring's first major boss defeated by 70% of players. This according to the game's achievements page on Steam. 70.7% of players have defeated the boss. And that's a boss character that a lot of people struggle with initially until you realize, oh, I can go off and do other things, power level a bit, kind of making my own adventure outside of this first boss, come back and then probably slap them around a bit after you get like their patterns down, of course. That's kind of how the Souls games work in the first place. So it does appear that, yeah, newer players are coming in, but they're actually fitting in with the Souls idea and the way that you play these games, since, I mean, more than 2/3 of players have been able to get past that initial boss, which is the first big test for any Souls game, is that initial boss that you have to try to break through. So it's really cool to see Elden Ring have this kind of success, and now I'm wondering how far does this go, because Dark Souls 3, according to Daniel Ahmed online yesterday mentioned this, took like years and years and years to get to 12 million sold. Elden Ring did it in a couple of weeks, basically. So like, is this thing gonna go to 20 or 30 million sold? Again, massive success here for From Software. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Arcade 1UP, as it looks like some of their cabinets have leaked a bit early from Gamefly. Gamefly has done this with different games, and now seeing it with an arcade cabinet, I'm like, well, it's probably happening. Gamefly's basically leaking it out. We can see this posted up over on Reddit with the Arcade 1UP Time Crisis Arcade. And then we also have the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and NFL Blitz Arcade. Now, I'll admit, NFL Blitz, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom, sure, but they've done a lot of fighting titles, but like NFL Blitz would be fun. Time Crisis, that's the one that I'm extremely interested in. They have all these listed as like October 15th and then November 15th. Those could just be placeholder dates because they're so far out, it's like it won't pop up in the system before then. Unfortunately for them, it has accidentally done that here, but nonetheless, Time Crisis I would like to see redone. The thing with Arcade 1UP, and the reason I bought one initially from them, it was like the X-Men, the Marvel X-Men cabinet. The reason I fell away from it is because their cabinets have just gotten more and more expensive, and they seemingly haven't done much more to accommodate that higher price. I mean, sure, they've done titles like Ninja Turtles, which was great, or Simpsons, but the price just keeps going. Now we're talking like $600 or $700 arcade cabinets. I think they're up to $1,000. Time Crisis is probably going to be more than $1,000. Just looking at everything that has to go into it with the pedal on the floor that you have to press, then the light guns and all this. I mean, buying a Time Crisis cabinet in general is extremely expensive, and it's a lot to set up and move around. So if they can pull this off and it actually be a really good experience, I would look into buying one of these Time Crisis cabinets from them, because it's pretty difficult to get one as it is anyway in good condition. So I'm just gonna keep an eye on this to see where we go with it, but if it's more than 1,000 from them, that's gonna be like a whole other tier for Arcade 1UP, and I think then they're kind of losing or missing the reason why so many people were interested in the first place, because they were considered affordable. Getting to the over $1,000 arcade caps, they're kind of losing that. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, did you buy the new GTA 5 for PS5 or Xbox Series this week? 90% said no, 10% said yes. You know, I took a look on the PlayStation Store. The story mode's like $10. I'm like, that's not bad. If you have not played GTA 5, it's worth $10. I'll tell you that one. The online is just free. You can just download it, which there's enough microtransactions to hold that game up as it is. They don't really need to be charging for it anyway. I think on the Xbox Series, the story mode is $20. It was a little weird to see it's double the price of the PlayStation version there, but I think that's up until a certain point in June anyway for the price promotion. So if you've been curious about GTA 5, I think it's worth picking up for $10 or even $20. Now, if you've already played through it, yeah, I get why you're passing on it, but I have a feeling this is gonna boost sales all over again for GTA 5. And we could probably see it chart in the top 5 for NPs without any issue, because I believe digital sales are counted, and it was trending on PlayStation and Xbox Store as it is. So yeah, maybe they'll make that push to 200 million. Just something tells me we're gonna be seeing GTA 5 in the different sales charts quite a bit more going forward. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Ultima Black Mage saying, I think Microsoft should put Perfect Dark on hold until the Activision Blizzard acquisition goes through and put a studio like Treyarch on the project. All right, that's an interesting idea, but Activision Blizzard isn't going to be acquired by Microsoft considering all things go through until what, like next year? I mean, how long are we gonna have Perfect Dark put on hold? An initiative was formed years ago. We just saw, of course, the teaser trailer for Perfect Dark in 2020. We're gonna wait till 2023 just to get this thing started. Crystal Dynamics is certainly well underway with Perfect Dark, and I think they can pull it off as long as Microsoft doesn't try to make them create another Avenger style game, which is like full live service, make it like Destiny, all this. If they're allowed to sit down and make a Tomb Raider like Perfect Dark style game, I think they should be able to pull it off fine. The question then becomes, what happens to the initiative after Perfect Dark comes out and Crystal Dynamics goes back to Square? Because the initiative is basically gonna be a smaller studio always. I mean, they're having a hard time just maintaining their talent level now, but if they're always like a 60, 70, even 80 person studio, they're going to need help from different support studios, which is probably where that Activision Blizzard acquisition comes in. You could have Raven or others come by, help initiative, collaborate with them on different projects. So I think what you're mentioning here is something that could happen well into the future, because like I said, the initiative is seemingly going to need help. I don't think they're ever going to be this massive studio going forward. Although I do think it's possible that Microsoft maybe buys Crystal Dynamics from Square and then just merges them in with the initiative, in which case then yes, the initiative would become a large studio overnight. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. It was Nintendo, the trademarks, the patent. Do you think there's a chance that Gameboy Advance games could be hanging to the Switch anytime soon? Let me know about that. And then also, what about Tunic? Were you surprised by some of the reviews, and were you happy to see it go to Game Pass immediately? And then Arcade 1UP cabinets. We're looking at Time Crisis, NFL Blitz. Do any of those catch your eye? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.